Today we're talking about DeAndre Swift's progress thus far this season on Let's Talk Lions. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing, but also for sharing this video and this channel with your friends that are Lions fans, because that does me a solid. During the draft last year, we picked up Swift in the second round. He was 35th overall out of Georgia. Right after picking him up, my initial thoughts were, oh God, that means that Kerryon Johnson has larger issues than they are letting on. We've had Kerryon Johnson since either 2017 or 18, and in his 2 seasons, must have been 18, he has gotten injured both seasons by the 6th game. So during the draft this last year, second round rolls around, and we pick up this guy, DeAndre Swift. Immediately, my thought is, there's more problems with Kerryon than they are letting on. So initially, I was like, here we go, going into this 2020 season, probably going to have some problems in the running back position. I was wrong. Now, sure, in some elements, I was correct. Obviously, there are issues with Kerryon, otherwise we would see him on the field more than he is. This year, we see him play just a few snaps in a game, mostly in the fourth quarter. It is a shame. I feel bad for Kerryon Johnson. Never want that to happen to anybody. However, we picked up Swift, and today's video is about DeAndre Swift. So let's talk about him. Let's take 1 minute and look at some of the stats that Swift has put up this season so far. Against Chicago, Swift had 3 attempts. He ran for 8 yards. It was 2.7 yards a carry, and he had 1 rushing TD. However, none of that matters. It doesn't matter to Lions fans. It doesn't matter to any other fan. It doesn't even matter to DeAndre Swift about that touchdown, because we all remember the game-winning / losing dropped pass, right? That's all Swift is ever going to remember about that game. That's all you and I, as Lions fans, will ever remember about that game, was the absolute pitfall in the stomach when that ball was dropped in the end zone to win the game. Now look, that doesn't define DeAndre Swift. We all know that. That play does not define him, but it very well could have. The best thing that we have seen from Swift so far this year is his progress. That boy is building a Jenga fort. I'm talking block on block on block. Feels like I'm back in the kindergarten building them wooden block forts, and then Eric Lockenvitz just comes over and kicks it down, and I'm like, the hell, man? Spent like 30 minutes on that. The next week, we go into Lambeau against Green Bay. Swift gets 5 attempts this time for a total of 12 yards, averaging at 2.4 yards a carry. So you look at that, he gets 2 more attempts, he gets a couple more yards, 4 more yards, and his average actually slightly dips down. 0 TDs for our man. On the passing side, though, he went 5 for 5 with 60 yards total. So it was really good to see, hey, we're going to throw the ball to you 5 times. You catch it 5 times, making up for that drop ball. I guess really not making up for it, but trying to give the confidence boost to say, hey, man, you can catch a football. Don't feel too bad about last week. Here we are, week 3. It's up against Arizona, and our boy gets 0 rushing plays. 0 attempts. 0 yards, 0 average, zip. He doesn't get the ball 1 time. Now, passing-wise, he does go 1 for 2 with a total of 19 yards, but nothing to write home about. We're watching his numbers stagger and falter, and if not, drop off a little bit here. The following week, we come home. It's against New Orleans here in Detroit. DeAndre Swift is given 4 attempts for 22 yards total, averaging out at 5.5 yards a carry. What was best about this game was the fact that we used him in the air. He went 4 for 4 with a total of 30 yards and 1 TD. This is where everything gets interesting. We have our bye. Coming off of the bye week, we play Jacksonville. This is the game that you and I both remember. It's the game that DeAndre Swift went off and decided, you know what? I'm in the NFL. I think I'm going to do what I'm here to do. Against Jacksonville on the rushing front, Swift gets 14 attempts for 116 yards total, averaging at 8.3 yards a carry and putting up 2 rushing TDs. Let's just talk about that. He goes off. Before that, in 4 games, he hadn't even gotten as many attempts as he did in that one game. In the first 4 games, he gets 12 attempts total. In this game alone, he's putting up 14. Not to mention the yardage that he was able to gain in this game against Jacksonville alone was more than the total of the other 4 games. Same with the TDs. Against Jacksonville, DeAndre Swift had a breakout performance. Following Jacksonville, we go to Atlanta, and Swift is given 9 attempts. He picks up 27 yards, which is about 3 yards a carry. And he puts up 1 rushing TD. When it comes to the passing side, he goes 4 for 5 with a total of 21 yards. Indianapolis was nothing to write home about. He gets 6 attempts for 1 yard. His receiving wasn't even that great. So we're watching this. He comes up, and he starts coming back down just a little bit. It's like a little baby mountain that you might send your child to go skiing down for the first time in their life, but please strap their feet into the skis because it's still a mountain. Then we face off against Minnesota, where he gets 13 attempts for 64 yards, which is about 4.9 yards a carry. But it was against Minnesota that we see one of our first bigger blunders since the Chicago game, which is where he had his first fumble this season. And then finally, here we are against Washington, and we see Swift pop off again. It was against Washington where he got his most attempts of carries in a game. It was 16 attempts for a total of 81 yards, which was about 5.1 yards a carry. On the receiving side of things, he went 5 for 5 with a total of 68 yards and 1 TD. So let's take a step back. We see all of the stats for these games, but most importantly, it's the trajectory of what we're watching. We slowly watch him as a rookie come in for his first game, make his way up. He plateaus a little bit, hits the bye, then following the bye, skyrockets, makes his way down just a little bit, Willy Wonka in the elevator room, and then he comes on back up here against Washington. I think if there's anything that we've learned thus far watching him, and you take all the stats out, take the stats, put them aside, just watch the game and watch Swift plays, our boy is like a bourbon, just aging in an oak barrel. We kind of just have to hope that the city of Detroit doesn't go Jack Sparrow on our guy and drink all of it too quickly, because that's what we like to do. We find talent and we drink it up until there's nothing left, and then we say, so long, it was fun to have you. We didn't win anything, but we sold a bunch of jerseys with your name on it. That's a tangent. Don't want to go down that one. Now, what I'm trying to get at here is we are seeing how he is growing, how Swift is progressing as a player. He's fast, he's powerful, he's unpredictable, he's finding holes left and right. Even when he goes up the middle and there's not a large gap, he's small, he's agile, and he's able to quickly hop through these holes that guys like AP are not going to be able to get through unless they try to powerhouse it. He's just a ton of fun to watch because a lot of times he gets handed the ball and he'll bounce out left and run all the way, all that yardage to the left, to the sideline, and zip on down. I love Swift's passion. I think that's what I love the most is you could see he had a nice, it was like a 10 to 15 yard run last week against Washington up on the left side of the sideline. He gets knocked out of bounds after he tried to stiff arm. He was mad that he didn't get as much yardage as he thought he should have. And I love that. I love seeing that. He's fast. He's powerful. He finds the holes. But most of all, he's passionate about what he does and he gives it everything he has. We are seeing a ton of growth from Swift this season, just from week 1 to week 10. And that's huge. A lot of times guys come in and maybe they don't blossom for 2-3 years. We are watching him blossom before our eyes. I think that's probably what's most fun at this point in the season. Watching our team play is seeing what DeAndre Swift is capable of and seeing him perform at the level that we know he should. And that's the reason why we drafted him. Swift has shown an immense amount of progress since week 1. Whether you look at his stats or you just watch his gameplay as a whole on a Sunday, both of them prove he is being trusted more by the coaching staff, being trusted more by Matt Stafford, and being given the opportunity to play to his strengths. Right? Last week was the first time we saw him start rather than AP. And it's safe to say that Swift has taken over Kerryon Johnson's role, and I'm okay with that. Kerryon Johnson is great and he's utilized well in certain positions. The problem is Kerryon is injury prone. So DeAndre Swift has made leaps and bounds this season. I hope to see more of that as the rest of the season unfolds. So you tell me, what do you think about DeAndre Swift? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And I'll catch you next time on Let's Talk Lions.